All right. First of all, I just want to say that I've only been in Crime Stoppers since November. So this is the first time giving a presentation to this size of crowd. And I've never had to do it in any of my other places within the services. And I got a timer here, so I should hurry up. But don't worry, I'll be quick. What I'm going to talk about today is the history of Crime Stoppers. I just kind of want to give you guys an understanding of how it was developed, where it came from, and what makes it so great, and the profound effect it's had on, or it's given investigators for criminal cases, and it's helped with our communities, giving them a voice and giving them a peace of mind. Talk about how the program works. I'm going to talk about youth and Crime Stoppers, and talk about how important Crime Stoppers can be for the youth of our communities. And I just have a short slide of what Crime Stoppers can do for you as an investigator. So it started in 1997 in Albuquerque, New Mexico, with a Canadian-born detective, Greg McAleese. He was investigating an armed robbery at a gas station that went south, and it turned into a homicide. A young university student was murdered, shot to death. After 3 weeks, the detective became upset because he had no leads, no suspects, but this homicide happened at dusk in a major area of the city with lots of traffic. So he believed that for every crime that was committed, someone other than the criminal has information or a piece to that puzzle that can help solve the crime. But he didn't understand, what he was trying to figure out was why people weren't coming forward. And the reasons why he believed people weren't coming forward was the fear of reprisal and empathy. They just didn't want to get involved. It didn't affect their lives per se, so they just wanted to move on from it. So what he did to overcome these two, reprisal and empathy, he set up a secure line for tipsters to call in information, and he guaranteed anonymity to protect against reprisal. So he guaranteed that no one knew who you were if you were calling in. He also set a cash reward. He actually used his own money and offered a cash reward to anyone who called and their information led to an arrest. And he hoped that that would overcome the empathy. So what he did was he approached a local college, and he did a reenactment of the homicide, and then he aired that on local TV stations and on the radio, and within 72 hours, 3 suspects were arrested in regards to this case. So prior to Crime Stoppers in Albuquerque, they had the 5th worst crime rate in the US. After 1 year of Crime Stoppers within their community, they weren't even on the list. And I think that speaks volumes to the impact that Crime Stoppers had in that community. And on a side note, former OPP Commissioner Thomas O'Grady, he believed that 3 innovations affecting modern-day policing was fingerprinting, DNA, and Crime Stoppers. And just being involved with fingerprinting and DNA, I think, also speaks to the importance of the program that we have here in Ontario. So Hamilton was the first Crime Stoppers in 1983 in Ontario. We now have 38 programs throughout the province, and there's over 1,000 international programs. To popular belief, Crime Stoppers is not a police program. It is not funded by the police. It's actually a charity, and it's run by a civilian board of directors made up with community members. The program is entirely funded by fundraising and donations. But what makes that unique is that the tips actually belong to Crime Stoppers, which allows us to share with other law enforcement agencies easily. So Crime Stoppers, for it to work, it really is a tri-partnership between the media, police, and the public. We use the media quite often to get our message out, to say who we are, to get people interested in Crime Stoppers to call. We also put out Crimes of the Week or doing reenactments through the media. The public, we use them. Obviously, we want them to call in the tips, to call in the information, and we also look to them for donations and funding. Obviously, police, we're using their investigative skills and resources. So Crime Stoppers really allows citizens to report a crime without having to reveal their identity or testify in court, and that's the fundamental basis to the program. And it's actually protected by the Supreme Court of Canada with R versus Liepert. It's a BC decision that was in 1997. I won't get into too many details with it due to the timer going off. So how the program works, the tipster actually calls in the tip line, and it is answered 24/7 across Ontario, or you can submit a tip online. The information is recorded. The tipster is given like a PIN number, and the tipster is told to call back in 6 to 8 weeks and to get an update of where their tip has led, and if it's led to an arrest, that there'll be an award given out. So then the tip is forwarded to the appropriate agency, whether that's the police or any other law enforcement agencies that we use, and they start they use it for an ongoing investigation, or a new investigation is started. So the investigators assess the tip, and they return the tip usually within about 60 days, we ask, and if it's cleared by arrest, then there is money awarded, and we determine the money, value the money through a matrix system that we all use the same across the province, and then it's approved by the board of directors. Also very important, the tip information, it's not disclosable to anyone, so it's not disclosable to the Crown or the defense. Since the tipster is anonymous, the information that's within that tip, we don't know what could out him to the suspects or the accused. So we really can't release anything. It's a little different than vetting a warrant, where you're using an informant and you know what will indeed the informant or not. Whereas a Crime Stoppers tip, you have no idea, so none of it can be released. There's one exception to the rule, and that's if innocents are at stake. So if the defense can prove that the information within that tip will support the accused's innocence, then it can be released to the court. So why the program's so successful is because we, as Crime Stoppers, we identify the certain areas why people do not report directly to the police. So by offering anonymity, we protect the tipster from retribution. They never have to give their name or attend court. So it makes them at ease, and they're more freely to give the information. Empathy, we talked about, we provide a cash reward, and that hopefully will appeal to people who normally don't want to get involved. And then there's concerned citizens, and for whatever reason, they don't want to come and report to police or authority, and there's many different reasons, people's backgrounds, they've had issues with police in the past, they don't want their nosy neighbor to know they're getting involved, whatever it might be, but they still want to do the right thing. And it's an interesting note is that 50% of tipsters don't pick up their reward. They just leave the hundreds of dollars sitting there and never ever call back. And then you also have, just like informants, you have a revenge aspect to it. So some people just call because they want to get rid of their competition. Basic. So unfortunately, we can't brag as Crime Stoppers saying, oh my gosh, because of Crime Stoppers tip, we recovered this many, or we recovered this gun in this investigation. We can't say that. So what we can do is we can brag about our stats. So since inception, there's been over 123,000 arrests, 132 cases cleared. We've paid out over $7.8 million in reward money. We've investigated for arson loss $7.2 million, over $300 million in property recovered, $2.3 billion in drugs seized, and $2.6 billion in money recovered. And that's just in Ontario. So that's pretty impressive numbers when you're talking about investigations in Ontario. So why we're all here is we want to talk about youth, and I think we all know youth really have the right to feel safe within their schools and their communities, which should be free from bullying, harassment, and violence. And one of the best tools to prevent violence and bullying is the students themselves, to get them involved, get them activated, empower them to speak up against things. So what Crime Stoppers does allow for students is gives them a voice, and it gives them a safe place to report whatever they may be seeing or involved with or on the sidelines of. We want to kind of get away from just being a sideline person, standing back, being an observer, to get them engaging and get them to call in and report it. Because I think a lot of them, it bothers them that they've seen whatever they saw and they don't have anywhere to go with it. So we're trying to get the word out. You can call Crime Stoppers and at least get that information to the right people. It also empowers youth to speak up about crimes, which will increase your safety of your schools, community centers, and neighborhoods. And it protects youth from social isolation and retribution. And I think that's a major point, especially nowadays with Facebook and social media. Kids, within minutes, can be isolated from all their friends. So if they're considered the rat in school, then no one's going to talk to them. But if they can do it in a secure manner and calling Crime Stoppers, they're not going to know that they're the ones who called in. It gives them more empowerment to call. So how are we going to get the word out to the youth? We've done a lot of youth initiatives throughout the schools, and I'm sure you've seen us there. We've done like video programs, we've done posters, we've done speeches, we've worked with student council. But another great way, and I have investigators here, but it's anyone who deals with youth. Youth workers, counselors, teachers, you all have those students who you can tell want to tell you something, they're just not coming forward. They can call Crime Stoppers about it. Or you can let them know that Crime Stoppers is an avenue if they don't want to talk to you. And it's a great way they can get whatever they want off their chest. Like I said, a lot of youth don't want to speak to authority, but they want to say something to someone. The only downfall, Crime Stoppers cannot take a tip from a victim. So if they're a victim of harassment or bullying or violence, we won't take the tip. We'll encourage them to call police. But if they've seen it happen to someone or their friends, then they can definitely call us. And the reason why we can't take information from a victim is because of the identity issue. And as officers, we just got to be careful of funneling information, and that occurs when officers direct individuals, especially informants, who've already provided the information to them, to report it to Crime Stoppers to get the reward. So if they haven't given you all the details and they haven't given you the information, you can definitely direct them to Crime Stoppers. But if they've already provided that information, I think we all have a duty to report. So we have to do it through the proper channels that way. And it just threatens the integrity of our program if we start funneling information. And just a quick tip, or a quick slide here. A lot of you guys may not know what your Crime Stoppers in your community can do for you, but I encourage you to speak with them. If we receive web tips, we can actually communicate with the tipster, so we can ask them clarifying questions, which is a great tool. We can also do background checks for you guys with our Crime Stoppers database for names, addresses, alias, vehicles, whatever you can think of. It's a word search database, so we can do that for you. A lot of programs do reenactments throughout the year, Crimes of the Week for radio, newspaper, magazines. We're active, most programs are active on Facebook, Twitter, any kind of social media page, we're there. And also we're available for presentations within your community groups. I'm sure if you just contact your Crime Stoppers, they'll be more than happy to help you. And I think that's it. Like I said, if you guys can reach out and talk to your program coordinators, they'll be happy to assist you in any way they can. And I still had a minute. Wow.